Hello, fellow travelers. This is Veronica from Human Design Journey, and I have a very peculiar person. I invite Luca. Hi.
Hi.
I said very peculiar person. It's that's my feeling towards
I
you.
feel I feel very seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it is with you because uh, I just like you. I have no idea why. Uh something attracts me to you.
Mm,
But I don't necessarily understand you or yeah, it's just I enjoy your perspective.
mm.
As a very different from mine, let's say. Luca, you um met human design when you were very young, right?
Yes,
Very
yes.
young age. Well, what age was that?
I think I was 15, but then I wasn't very interested until I got to 16. So I had this first period of like just knowing it's there but not caring. And then, yeah, when I was 16, I started getting obsessed, and then that became my main focus. And yeah.
And then like 15 years later is that now or
That's about 13. Well, I mean, I'm 29, so yeah,
so
13,
13
14.
years later you told me I don't even care about
Yeah.
whether I'm correct or not anymore.
Oh yeah, that's
Can
true.
you tell me? Can you tell me what happened? And
Oh yeah, oh, many things happened. Oh my God. So basically, I was in a relationship for quite a long time with a person that was into human design, and we had our thing going on. We were really like two generators, asking each other questions and stuff. So there was an emphasis on trying to be correct and things like this. And at the same time, there were limitations in that relationship which I weren't that clear to me, which were also limiting the, you know, whatever correctness was possible. And so when that was over, then I had some time to just, you know, I guess look at the world in a different way, because that was a 9-0 relationship. So I was really, uh, that was my main world. It was just being with the person for a long time, for like 7 years. And so I was like, wow, there's a whole world out there. And then somebody else came into my life, a manifester woman, and we spent 6 months together. And she's a pure individual with the channel of initiation. And basically, she really shocked me almost every day, and like she crumbled my world. Like whatever I thought was reality, in many ways, she destroyed it, like just with a big hammer. It's like I had a very, very strong mind. If you look at my chart, you can see it's quite defined. And so I had like, yeah, it's like I was living in the human design mandala or something. Like my whole world was just seeing the world through human design, through my understanding of human design, basically. And basically, she really made me drop into my body much more and into feeling. And so that changed everything for me. All of a sudden, it was all about some looking at traumas and looking at what happens when I'm disconnected from my feelings. And it was connecting to my responses in a different way. Instead of just being the sound, it started to become more, what is my energy really doing? So more this feeling of what my response is. And so this whole world of sensory thing and of the body really opened up for me. And so from then, for a while, I was really like, yeah, I mean, I looked at my life until then, and I was very, like, it looked really bad. It would look like it was just very unpleasant, actually. And so unpleasant that I disconnected from feeling so that I wouldn't feel how unpleasant it was. So then I was like, well, if this is what human design gave to me, a life that was still unpleasant to that extent, is like, I mean, sure, it helped me. It was less of a hell, I guess, from human design, because I kind of um, backed off from a lot of the homogenized conditioning that would have made things worse, I think. But at the same time, it's like I wasn't really living, even though I really did my best to live my design for, a long time. Like it was like what, 10 years then. And so I was really looking at human design and really being like, is this really even useful for anything? I was really like it's just about feeling now. It's just about yeah, a different process which I needed to let go of all the concepts in human design. And then came the festival that you organized with Julia. And again, then I was like, oh, no, actually, there is something to human design. I switched back because I saw all these people that were there, and I was so impressed by a lot of them and the way they moved through space and the way they felt. Um, and so I was like, no, this has a lot of value. And so that changed again. Like, but it's like I needed to erase all my past ideas to see it with fresh eyes. And yeah, then I had this refreshed view on it. At the same time, human design is just part of my mind. Like it's unescapable. I think in terms of human design a lot. It's just, yeah, it's part of how I see the world. But yeah, there was this process, and then where am I now? Yeah, now it's again something different. It's like it's a process that started when I was studying with John Martin in 2016, 15 even actually. And he introduced me to this guy called Jed McKenna, who wrote some books, and some of those books are basically about certain growth process, and some of it is about what he calls enlightenment, which he defines as basically truth realization or untruth unrealization, something like that. Is like basically letting go, like seeing everything that is not true for what it is, that it is not true. So basically, it's like this kind of letting go of beliefs and ultimately letting go of all beliefs, and letting go of the Maya. I mean, seeing the Maya for what it is, that it is a Maya, like Ra refers to it. And so somehow, I got to the end of that process somehow. And so from that perspective, nothing is real. So it's like the idea of caring about living my design is just part of the dream. It's just part of something that's not actually there. I mean, it's like nothing, no concept is true. Um, and so yeah, like it's pretty recent since this kind of shift happened, and um, I'm still not quite, let's say, I don't have firm ground in terms of like how do I relate to this? How do I integrate this new understanding with life, with the rest of my understanding or something like this? So that's why, yeah, I'm a bit shaky about it, but it's clear to me. I mean, it's like this shift happened, and um yeah, and at the same time, I do see that I am fully experimenting with my human design, as far as the reality is concerned, as far as the Maya, as far as this life. So I am really connecting to my responses in a very deep way, in deeper and deeper, and to my sacral and my energy, and it's a huge process that it just is deepening. But yeah, at the same time, I don't care. Like that, like it has nothing to do with me. It's like my life has nothing to do with me. This reality has nothing to do with me. Um, And Ra talks a bit about this in terms of passenger consciousness, that when you realize you're this personality crystal that is just the passenger, this life has nothing to do with us as passengers, and so that is there. Yeah.
To me, it looks like you integrated this so much that you don't need the information anymore. It's just part of you, and mm, or more like you're just you. Nothing's
Yeah.
part of you. You're just you, and that's what it's all about, actually.
Yeah.
And now that you mentioned John Martin, no, because I also saw you in time. Like I know you for several years, and we're not very close or something, but I can. I'm talking to a generator. I know I'm talking to a generator. You have such a strong connection to your response and to your body. Um, and then I'm really interested actually to hear about John Martin.
Yeah.
I know that he was very radical, not only himself, but also with his students. And he had a very different approach. What
Yeah.
I really resonated with looking at his videos, and he has this movement, and this movement is like that to get centered. And
Yeah.
this resonates so deeply with me. I'm also into martial arts since I was very young. My father is um, specialist in martial
Mm.
arts, and I know exactly this is like really getting centered, really getting in Tai Chi. We call that, when you get the main pose, and the feeling is like you ground yourself by growing roots through your feet to the ground, and then you're like centered. So this movement, and John was constantly
Mm.
bring it
Mm.
back,
Mm.
and it was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it was
Mm.
ah physical orgasm, to listen to him and to really connect very deep. But I'm very interested because I heard very different viewpoints. Like some people were thinking of his way of guiding like torture, literally, like these guys torturing me,
Nah,
So,
maybe he was with some people. I have no
yeah.
idea. He was very gentle with me always.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. With me, I just admire his gentleness, actually. It's really something. Like, he was much more gentle than he thought he was, even. Like, at some point, I was actually in Sedona, so I went to his house.
Also, you met him personally.
I met him personally for a brief moment. It wasn't long at all, but yeah, we met in Aura for, I don't know, half an hour or something, like very short. Um, so the first time, like, we met and stuff, and then the second time, so I went by his house and I rang the door, I knocked, and then he opened the door and he was busy. He was doing a session for somebody or reading, and he had just the most gentle way of basically telling me that he wasn't available in that moment. And I was just so touched by how gentle he was with telling me this. It's like he made sure I was fully satisfied and happy, like in my being, even though, I wasn't going to spend much time with him then, and that really touched me. And later on, I have a friend who also spoke with him, and they spoke about me at some point. And actually, they spoke about this moment that happened. And what John said is that I came in and his spleen was like, fuck no. And so he had this warrior thing of like saying, no, I'm not available. And so to me, so that was his internal experience of what happened then for him. And at the same time, with me, he was extremely gentle. So to me, it speaks about how gentle he is as a person. It's like it records so much warrior effort for him to just basically tell me that he was not available in that moment for me. I mean, there are a few moments where I really saw how sensitive and like he just got into trouble all the time, and it wasn't pleasant for him. Um, he I see him as somebody who's very sensitive, and that somehow he says things and people explode with all kinds of reactions, and it's not nice for him at all. It is not like he enjoys that or looks forward to that. It's just, if he's as authentic as he can be, there will be reactions, and then, you know um he had to deal with that. Yeah.
So he was your guide, um,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
and this is where you became guide, was it with him?
Yeah, I became a certified guide because of the course I took with him, which was this Jedi training, he called it, in 2015, maybe in 2016. Yeah.
So how was that for you to, what left you with the biggest impression about the way he was teaching you how to initiate people basically into human design?
I he didn't really teach me to. I mean, okay, the main thing. So I was about 20. I was 20 when I did this course with him. I was very unaware of what the certification was about. I had no idea that there was such a thing as being a human design guide or what it meant. Um, I just at some point saw that he was doing this Jedi training, and I was like, this sounds really cool. I really like this. And then I knew I didn't have the money to do it, so it was like, just it was just there, and then I let it go. And then at some point, I mean, I was in a pretty tough situation at the time. I was living with my dad, and I was very radical about waiting to respond and not doing anything unless I respond. And that was a big problem. It created a lot of tension, to the point where my dad wanted me out of the house. And I mean, it was pretty big. And actually, it's just now that I'm starting to see the path to reconnect with him. And so it's been a long time. So um, basically, my I was in that situation, and my mother just paid for the course. She was like, "Hey, you told me once that you were interested in this. Would you like to go there? I'll just pay for it." And so I did the course, and to me, like, I was barely listening to John. I was barely listening to the course. I was barely listening to the information. I don't think I had the brain capacity to really take it in. The main thing with John is that I really liked him, and I liked his energy, and he made me laugh. And he was so joyful, and that joy was very contagious. And I was just so happy. It was kind of his spirit and his joy that just I was just so excited every time to go there and just be there. And a lot of the information I knew, I mean, or I thought I knew. I mean, I already had been studying, let's say, not officially, for a few years. And so a lot of the basics, like, I was pretty comfortable with it. But basically what he added was a lot of personal experience. And that was very valuable. And when I listened back to some of the courses, I was like, whoa, I didn't hear half of this. And so I know that later on, John was like, it was a course with a few people. We were, I don't know, 10, 15, I don't remember. And later on, I spoke with John one-on-one, and he said, yeah, that was probably not a great service that I did to do this course for multiple people at the same time. That now I teach one by one, and yeah, there is less money, but it's actually much more efficient at actually transforming the person, because he can really hone in with that person where they're at and all of that. Um, and so yeah, we had a little talk like this, and he kind of, made me see some things, and I was like, kind of terrified. And then he saw it, and he backed off a lot, like, very quickly, like, no, you don't have to do anything. It's like, I mean, a lot of these things about this path to enlightenment or something is horrifying. I do not, I'm not encouraging anybody to do that. I don't think it's a good idea. However, if you somehow you are on that path, then okay, maybe maybe I can say some things that would make it a bit easier. Um, but yeah, I guess this is why people say maybe that it was torture because, and that's also in Jed's book. Jed was saying if somebody is enlightened and they want to make somebody else enlightened, basically it's a torture process, you know? They're just gonna destroy everything in that person, you know, apart from physically, because it's not about that. So, um, yeah, don't. Yeah, so about his method of teaching, he had some, you know, he was very empowering actually. This is a big difference I think between him and a lot of teachers, is that he was extremely empowering at you discover what it is for you. Here are some very simple mechanical understandings that are like Lego pieces, and then you can use them to build up your own understanding of human design. Um, Stay with the basics and master them, and then you own the system. You know, it's in you. Nobody can tell you what human design is at that point because you know the you have a solid footing with it. And so I think this is, yeah, it was part of kind of his rebellious nature of just nobody knows anything, and you maybe you can know for yourself, and that's all. And so a lot of this thing of, you know, the idea of a teacher that knows and you don't, and you learn from them, and then you are somebody who knows and deal, but other people don't know. And, you know, I mean, this kind of hierarchy is kind of destroyed. It's like he was really poking at that and trying to just say, no, it's everybody is like, I don't know anything, you know, I have my own experience, you know, maybe that's useful to you. And everybody's kind of equal. Everybody has their own, um, I don't know what's good for you. I don't know what's right for you. You know, this very clear, um, thing. And so I felt very like that totally oriented me in that empowering um orientation, let's say. Um yeah. One of the most empowering things he told me, I was right at the beginning of my experiment, and we chatted, and then we had a call for 10 minutes, and he just looked at me and he said, "No, you got it. That's it." You know, I was just basically waiting to respond, to make sounds and all of that. And that like he just said that, and that was enough for me. Then I was like, okay, then that's it. Like I got the ultimate empowerment just in one sentence. It's like, no, you that's it. You're responding, you know, it's not, you don't need anything else. And yeah, he was like that with me anyway. That's my experience of him. Yeah.
You mentioned that once you started experimenting radically, that put your relationship with your father at unease.
Oh, I destroyed it.
Can you tell me more about it? Like,
Oh my God. Yeah, okay. So basically, so I was studying human design while being at school. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to experiment a little, but I want to finish school. I want to have my diploma and then finish with that. And after that, I'm going to follow my strategy and authority. And I don't care what happens. I don't care what my life becomes. I just want to be correct. I just want to not have this frustration that is just so pervasive in my being. Um, and so then I started somehow studying psychology, and I did one semester, and then there was a shift, and there was no energy anymore to do it. And so I stopped. And so then for the rest of the year, I basically just had hobbies. And then the second year started, and I was still in that student room for another year with just hobbies. And I had no plan. I had nothing. I was just, you know, following my design as best I could. And it's like if I looked at what most people were into, they were all into these projects of trying to become a professional of some sort and having friends and going out. And I was not doing much of that. I was very much just, you know, in my room and then playing some music and then having some, yeah, mostly musical things, like playing some jazz and I don't know, stuff like that. And And then when my dad was, for that first year, he was paying for my rent and everything. Like he was still giving me all that money. And then he was also probably getting uncomfortable because I wasn't doing anything and he didn't know how long that was going to take. And um, for the second year, he gave me like maybe a third of the money that would have been necessary to pay the rent. Like he was like, I'm just giving you this, you know? And I'm like, okay. Somehow my great parents, they gave me an envelope with some money. I don't know, some 1,000 euros or something. And I had also kept money before from what my dad gave me because I just didn't spend it. And so I didn't know how long, every time I would project how long I would have, like in terms of money to pay the rent, I was like, yeah, I just have a few months left, and then I don't know what's gonna happen. But somehow I made it for the whole year, the second year. Um, I that magic, I have no idea how it happened. Miscalculations probably, on my part. And so then the third year came, and then my dad stopped paying anything, and so I didn't have enough money to stay. And then he was like, okay, but you can stay at my place. And then somebody else asked me, yeah, do you want to stay at his place? And I went, mm-hmm. And so I went there, and then I lived with him and his new wife because my parents were divorced. And then, yeah, I was again just very radical. There are a lot of things that people understand maybe that are how you behave in a family, how you behave as a human being, and I was not interested. I was just like mm-hmm, mm-hmm, and that's all. And basically it was not very human. I would say that, like my way of interacting. And there was just some things that happened one after the other that just started breaking apart my relationship with my father. Um, like he just got more and more closed off and like just pushing me away. And he was telling me things, well, I want you to look for studies. And if somebody tells me as a generator, I want you to look for studies and doesn't ask me anything, especially in that moment where it was my first, I was still in the beginning of knowing what responses were. So I really needed yes, no questions to sense anything in me that was responding or not. And if my dad says, yeah, I would like you to look for studies, and there's no response, I have nothing to do or to say. And so there's a total mismatch of his world and my world. And yeah, at some point he lost patience. He was like, yeah, if you don't do that until, in 3 months, I want you out of the house. And that was not a question. So there was nothing to respond to. So I was just waiting. Um, yeah, and at some point, he did what was necessary for to expel me from that house. And yeah, and then I was also I was looking at him and I'm like, yeah, I don't want you in my life. It didn't seem like there was anything about my relationship to him that was beneficial to me, apart from money. Money that he would send me, and then he has actually been supporting me with money since I was born. And that was the one thing that was like, yes, that's very, very valuable, and I'm like, I value this, and I recognize how important that was for my life. And yes, since then I barely spoke to him, and it's been 10 years, I don't know, something like that. And yeah, it's funny that now I'm talking about all this because yeah, like a few days ago, I started thinking, yeah, what would I like? Like, is there something that I would enjoy about relating to him again? And then I remember this also somebody asked me, did I forgive him? And I had a yes response. And I was also surprised because I didn't know, did I forgive him? And it's like, yes, okay, so I have no grudge. And now it's like, but also I didn't see why would I talk to him. And now it's like I realized what bonded us the most was stories, because he really opened up the whole world of movies and things like that with me, and I loved the stories he told me when I was a child. And so I'm just thinking of, just coming back and seeing there is a something that can be built between me and him that relate to this, to stories, and to him telling me stories, because I enjoy his stories. So that's that's the that's the loop with my dad. Yeah.
But so you were in university when you said you were studying in school, and you
So
were
I was
studying
in
psychology.
university. Yeah, I was in university for like just 6 months,
Yeah. Mhm.
studying psychology. And then I stopped. I was just in that student room, but didn't study anything for like, did basically just hobbies for 2.5 years. And after that, when I got out of my house, my dad's house, then I got into that relationship that lasted 7 years. And it started with me being in England for 3 years, and I studied music there. So I did have, I did do a bachelor in music. Um, yeah.
So it might be taken from if we look at psychology, that this was your
Mm.
teen riot, the emancipation from the parents. And it we cannot say it's the fault of human design. It can as well be, of course, but um to me it sounds like that person, your father, wasn't really interested in what you wanted, but
Hmm.
wanted the standard um social interact, like it's good that you study, it's good that you go to university because the society says so. And yeah, which
I think it's partly this and partly he can get annoyed at the idea that he needs to just keep taking care of somebody forever. At some point, he's like, "Yeah, I've given enough, and I want you out of my. I want to keep my resources for myself so that I can have some fun instead of giving them to you." I think this is part of how he kind of does things. But anyway, I don't really want to spend too much time trying to analyze my dad, if that's
Mhm.
okay.
No, no, no. I wanted to come up to the point of, you said I was doing hobbies, and
Yeah,
then the hobbies are actually music. And then you say I went to England and actually I studied music. So
yes,
basically you were doing what you like to do.
that's true. Yeah.
And I saw you on the festival, and with your guitar, and really liking. Actually, just before we have this interview, that's what I responded to, seeing you do some Red Hot Chili Pepper song, I think it was.
Mm.
And for me, it was like, bang, drop the mic at the end. So I thought, okay, I want to connect with him again. I want to see what's going on there.
Mm.
But it sounds to me like music is so much part of what's happening. And if we look at your design,
Yeah,
actually, I'm going to open it again.
yeah.
um, but I wanted to connect this to somehow, um, and also you mentioned then I met my partner, and this partner was in human design. So
Yeah.
suddenly you did get the yes no questions,
Yeah.
which helped you feel what you want to do.
Mm. There was
And
much more respect for, what's correct for me than what I had before. Somebody like, yeah, somebody who was actually interested enough to give me to promote me leaving my authority. Yeah,
mhm. And then I want to take you back to enlightenment, which you
yeah,
mentioned. Being enlightened. What
right.
is being enlightened? And isn't it arrogant to think I'm enlightened?
That's really funny. Yeah, I mean, it's so. I was thinking of that yesterday while having a walk. I mean, enlightenment is the destruction of the ego, right? So like you could say that arrogance is obliterated. It disappears completely. There is no arrogance left. There's nothing left. Um, and on the other side, it's like if you say you're enlightened, this this very much seems like the ultimate arrogance. Like it's like it's both. It's like my ego is like infinite, you know? There is no way of breaking that ego because I mean, I don't know, it's just I couldn't have a bigger ego if I say I'm enlightened in a way, right? And also I couldn't have a smaller ego. I mean, I could like there is no ego. Um, so I don't know. I was just seeing these two views of the same thing. Which yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. It's like, but basically, it's something that anybody could do. It's not like a. I would say it's not such a big deal. Being enlightened. I don't think it's useful. I don't think it's nice to get there. Um, and it's just some people somehow need to do it. And it's also not mysterious. Like you can learn how to do it, how to get there. And there are steps and procedures. And I don't know. It's like learning the guitar or something. It's like it's that bland or something. It's just some steps and you can do them and then you get there. And there's no point to it. So
So, uh, steps to getting enlightened
yeah,
is, can we call enlightenment Satori then?
I don't really know much about Satori. What is Satori to you? Or
Enlightenment. Like Satori to me, like waking up to something, sudden
I think
realization.
enlightenment is more waking up from something.
Aha, okay, I like that.
So it's waking up from the idea, the belief that anything is real.
So waking up from a deep dream,
Yeah,
from the Maya,
yeah,
and you called it a painful process.
yeah. It's not nice at all.
How,
Yeah.
what is it painful to the body, to the mind, to the soul, to your emotional system?
Yeah, I think it's emotional. And emotional, feels physical at times and stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of disillusion, right? Like something you thought was real, and some things you think are real, but you don't like them. So you're very happy to get rid of them, you know? You're like, yeah, I have these negative beliefs, and I see their negative beliefs, and then I get rid of them, and then it's so much nicer, right? So that part is nice. But then there are other beliefs that are dear to us in a way, or they are part of who we think we are at our core. And so it it can just feel awful to when they go away. Just the process of it. Um, yeah.
I saw you also on in the role of a guide or teacher with your videos.
Mm.
You share some are in French, so I listen to them to better my French. I had this volunteer, several French speaking volunteers, and they revived my love to the French language. And suddenly, for me, realizing I forgot everything I studied and da da da.
Mm.
So yeah, I was listening to some of your videos, and it's interesting to see, because you're so young, also in appearance. But when you start talking, you appear like an old person, like okay, not like an old person, but like somebody who has a lot of experience. I would.
Yeah, yeah, that's the 35, right? Like it's my
Aha.
my design son is the voice of experience. I
Yeah.
remember being a teenager and thinking, I want to be old. I want to have lived. That was like my thing of the old wise man has always been a turn on. I mean, now it's not really, but it used to be like so. I have strived to get that, to have that role or something, I guess, you know? So yeah.
It's really interesting and um like this word, not humility, but humbleness. Humble. I see that humbleness in you together with the wiseness, and it's really beautiful to see. Um, so my next question is, after the festival, you don't live in.
That was a local, right? The Bulgarian girl, projector. And it's through her that I got here. So she got me to this place, which is a garden, where, you know, I volunteered. And she really saw me, and she really saw that this would be really good for me to come here. I was basically living alone in Romania, and I was getting tired of the seclusion. Like I had some friends, but they were living like a bit further, and I would just see them from time to time. So mostly I lived alone in a house with a dog and some neighbors that I didn't really get along that well with. So basically this time alone was it was like a transformational time, you know, like imagine somebody who just goes and gets very secluded and has this deep spiritual transformation within them because they, yeah, I don't know, something like that. So I think that that was necessary for me to have that time alone. But then I was starting to feel this eagerness. I was actually thinking at some point, what would I like? Well, maybe like go to the south of France in some kind of a regenerative agriculture place near a nice a town where there's students, to meet young people. And somehow it's exactly what happened, except it's not in France, it's in Bulgaria. So I'm near Plovdiv, which is a very much student town with a vibe I really like. Very chill people and like beautiful hills, and like I just enjoy that very much. And I'm just pretty close to that in exactly that setting. And I'm meeting young people. Um, yeah, and so through her I got to this place. Um, and yeah, I guess maybe that explains it, unless you have more questions.
I remember you went to some permaculture course in England, I think.
It was Finland.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
now you have the possibility to practice what you but you already had a garden actually in
in
back in
Romania.
Romania.
Yeah, in Romania, I saw that I did not have the energy to garden, on my own at least. I was like, I had all these dream. Yeah, COVID happens. There's not gonna be food anymore. I need a garden to make sure I have food. And also, I hate Finland because it's too dark in the winter. I cannot stand it, and I'm going. I'm going to Romania. In that house that is my grandparents' house where there's a garden. And so I went there, and instead of having this, okay, gardening thing and everything, it just, I think everything fell away basically in those years where I was there. It was this deconstruction process where my relationship stopped. I did not have much energy to garden. I did some building, like renovation of the house, and got really burnt out, and then didn't have energy to do much. I got into that relationship with that manifester who just shocked me every day and destroyed a lot of things physically as well, but let's say, in my psyche mostly. And then I had time alone where I really felt these withdrawal symptoms of not having conditioning around. And yeah, so that was what happened there. And then I came here, and yeah, now I garden and stuff, and it's really nice. And why is it nice is because it's in a setting, an environment that feels good. It's like I'm a lot about people and relationships. Like in my design, I'm a split definition, and I'm in the quarter of duality. So relationships are really big, and it doesn't matter that much where I am as much as who I'm with. And so this is why I didn't really, it's not like I wanted to go to England or Finland or Bulgaria. Like, it doesn't really matter in a way where I am. It matters who I'm with. And so here I'm with people that make it very comfortable for me to garden, and I learned so much, and I grew so much, and I matured so much being here, and that's a great experience. So yeah.
So I see that actually this year you become 30,
Yeah, I'll be 30 in September.
which means that you already feel maybe from 28 or something you're getting on the roof phase.
Yes, yes. I could feel getting on the roof. Like it was this process, and somehow while I was going through some of this death and things which are related to Jed McKenna and stuff, I was wondering if this is the Saturn return, and it's like it kind of coincided with it in a way, but it's not the same actually. So the day that I arrived here, I planned it so that it would be the day of my Saturn return, the exact click moment. So I arrived, at a certain time on the line, right? 30.6, it was the line of it. And then I was very conscious and present when my Saturn return actually happened, the exact moment. I was speaking with a friend of mine that was generous enough to spend some time talking with me. And that was really, I really felt the exact click, which was before I was kind of anxious and freaked out actually because I just arrived here and I don't know, I was being anxious about being here. I didn't know how I felt, and it was a weird environment, I was like confused. And then I spoke with this friend, and just in that minute, it's like I was like a newborn in a way. Emotionally, it's like all of a sudden everything was light, and I was just like a laughing child. Um, and everything felt just light and fresh, and like that was this Saturn return feel for me. Yeah. But there were phases before, like for example, when the design side clicked of my Saturn return 3 months before, I was like, I'm on the roof. This feels different. Like something already felt different. So it's like it is a like general movements, and then there's these two little clicks in those moments where the design uh, hits and then the personality hits. That was my experience of it. And also environment becomes very important after the Saturn return, and now I'm very conscious of my environment, which is this place at the moment. And so all the people in my life become much more important, like my relationship to them and how they help me grow and all of that. So before that, I was very blind, despite all my wisdom and knowledge. I could not see the way I see them now. Really, I just didn't have the brain functions or something. It wasn't the phase of life that I was in. Um, so it's a huge difference. And I see the optimism growing as a sixth line. It's yeah.
Looking at the place you live and hexagons, how is it to live in a spherical house?
I like it's like I remember. I mean, now I don't look at it that much, but there is a harmony feel about it, and I remember being really, really liking it, like being excited about it in the beginning, because it's like living in a mandala or something. And I really always liked mandalas, like the symmetry of it, the harmony of it. Um, I think I prefer this to a square house. It feels nice. Like, yeah.
The perfect architecture, they call it,
Mm.
to synchronize everything. And also, I heard about the gardens you're in because they create also greenhouses.
Yes,
And they say that, did you notice something different in the greenhouse, which is from spheres?
I didn't really notice anything myself. I mean, it's just in general, the roundness feels nicer. Um, that's what I notice. But also that there's somebody here actually that so one of the greenhouses here is long and all the other ones are round. And so there's this guy that actually maybe built the long one and one of the round ones, I'm not sure. And for his studies, he actually studied the difference between them and basically established that the conditions for life are better in the round one because the temperature is more stable. I don't know, the humidity perhaps. There's some things like that that just make it better overall for the plants that are in there. So yeah, there are things in my consciousness, the information that pops up that really points to things being round, being better, and yeah, all these straight lines are being kind of outdated in many ways. So I can see this movement going toward in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I meant exactly the same guy because I read his post, I think last year or something, when he was writing actually his uh I don't know if it's PhD. No, it's diploma work for his university.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was wondering whether you felt also for your own body and this
It just, I do
harmonizing
feel,
energy.
yeah, I do feel it's much more pleasant. Um, yeah, yeah. The word harmonizing doesn't really like describe how I feel about it. It's more like the squareness is disharmonizing.
Hmm.
You know, if something is not symmetrical, there's a disharmony about it. It's just not harmonious, you know? It's like you have a tube, okay. It's not as pretty. It's like if you look at this, for example, it's like this shape is not as harmonious as a circle, as a sphere. Um, I mean, to me, it's just this obvious thing. So um, it it's like there's less disturbance, perhaps. Yeah. Like a lot of the things built by humanity, by people are, you know, made from the mind, made from the not self, made from a distorted energy. um Whereas nature is pure and nature cannot be not self. And so um to me, round buildings is not like they're harmonizing, is that um there is much less pollution. That's more how I see it. And also it's, I'm responding to this, you know, I'm enjoying this. There's a part of me that vibrates with how it looks, and the shapes and the texture. And um so yeah, it's it has a beauty to it.
That's actually exactly what I was gonna say, that if we look in nature, there are basically no straight lines.
There are no straight lines.
Everything is perfectly imperfect, you know?
Yeah,
While people were the ones who came up with the straight lines.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
as Julia's favorite quote of Rise, like the first criminals were actually architects because they took us away from nature and
All right.
closed the skies for us.
Right, right.
Yeah, this is what
Oh,
Ra said. Yeah, and
oh, that's
Julia
powerful.
Krakova really loves quoting that quote. But
Mm,
yeah, there is something about it.
mm,
Well, I enjoyed so much our conversation and learning something more about you and your human design journey. Is there something you would like to share or
mm,
say or ask?
mm, mm. I think, yeah, one of the things that is becoming big for me is this deeper connection to the sacral as a generator, right? I've spent quite a lot of time this past year with other types, with manifestors, with projectors, and now I'm coming back to generators. I'm coming back to being with my own kind because we are so different. We really are so different. And so yeah, basically this is my growth process right now, is just this connect, more and more connection to how, what makes me vibrate, and how. Um and in that that's the thing that I'm going to open up this subject of sexuality, because I mean the sacral has this keynote of sexuality, and this is a part of my life that I haven't really explored, or hadn't really explored that much for a long time. And it's like, I mean, my channel is a tantric channel, right? It's be between the sacral and the G, and so it, this is very personal for me. Sexuality is like is a me thing, you know. In a way, it has nothing to do with anybody else, and so I think in a way each sacral has their own sexuality to discover, which is very unique and very internal. Um, like very not just like, oh, let's go towards the outside, you know, because this is the genetic pull, right? This thing, oh, something's attractive, I want it, right? This is so different. It's like what I'm, you know, part of what I'm exploring is just purely internal. Um, and it has to do with the sacral that vibrates with things. Like, let's say I hear a voice and that voice touches me in some way, and I'm like, like there's just a response, there's something, and that response has a sexual quality to it, which doesn't mean that it has something to do with actual sex, you know, the actual, um but there is this, you know, a bit like, I don't remember, you at some point you told me that you listened to somebody, it was John, and the way that he did this, you know, and that touched you in a certain way. And you said this was like, I think you used the word orgasm, you know. And to me, it's this. It's like they're just like focusing more and more of my attention on what I'm really resonating to at that level. Just increases it into my life and increases my the the quality of my energy becomes more and more refined and pleasant for me, and then I'm also putting that into the outside, you see. And as a generator, we're here to wait to respond, but we also have this aura that is open and that attracts. And so this whole dance of, you know, potential mates or just meeting somebody and spending a good time, and you know, whether there is sex or not, whatever, maybe just a conversation, all of that, it is really an attracting field that is meant to make it happen. Like, I'm not here to go towards anybody in a way. I'm here to refine my own inner, um, you know, mm, vibration and life and you know, the sexual part of that within myself for me. And that is just, that is attractive. That is just attractive. And I think that every generator, if they get in touch with that, um, there is an attractiveness that builds up, and it is just, I think life can become so much bigger and so much more pleasant, um, as each generator goes in, because it's such an inner thing. Yeah. So yeah, I guess this is a big thing for me right now, that I'm exploring, and I think that it could be great for many people to you know, their own process with that theme, and I guess I guess that needed to be expressed. Yeah.
So, guys, if you resonate to Luca, to his way, and if you want to refine your own inner vibe, this is the place to go. In the comments, I'm going to leave his details in case you would like to reach out. And Luca can be your guide. So, thank you very much for sharing your inner process and your young wisdom, if I can put it this way. It's really a pleasure for me. And I know one more person who met human design so young. It really makes a difference, guys. It's really beautiful to look to see. So, and and the pain which goes with it, and with the enlightenment and satori or whatever you call it, it's also really beautiful. It's just human. And yeah. Well, thank you again for
Thank you. It was, yeah. Um,
being with us, because I'm gonna make it public if you allow me to.
sure, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And speak to you soon.
All right. Yeah. Have a
Bye for
good
now.
evening and